Yeah, I forgot I can't show any fucking guns on stream, and then somebody sent me a thing where somebody is shooting a fucking gun. It's so stupid. I don't think Sonic was like that in the 90s. No, you can't show guns on YouTube. That's why I had to delete the stream and start over.
Korean leader in Pyongyang was actually a Christian nationalist named Cho Man-sik. Cho was a respected church elder, whom even the Soviet commanders initially considered installing as head of a provisional government. The Americans, eyeing Korea from the south, also thought highly of Cho. He had the kind of Christian credentials the US found agreeable. However, Cho Man-sik opposed Soviet ruling plans and clashed with the young communist Kim Il-sung. Soon, the Soviets arrested Cho and forcefully disappeared him. The Soviet elders threw their support fully behind Cho's rival, Kim Il-sung, the guerrilla hero with a Soviet uniform. It was quite an irony that one Presbyterian-trained patriot was replaced by another Presbyterian-trained patriot, but with opposing ideologies. It was as if the northern half of Korea had to choose between two very different products of Pyongyang's Christian community. One a devout elder who wouldn't bend to communists, the other a former organ-playing choir boy who had turned red and was ready to seize the moment. Kim Il-sung, now heading the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, wasted no time cementing power and pushing his agenda. He spoke the language of Marx and Lenin publicly, but he also knew his populace included many Christians and American influence folks who needed special handling. Early on, Kim's rhetoric was to pacify those Christians, at least neutralize them. For instance, in 1946, he urged Northern Christians to participate in building the new country rather than pinning hopes on the Americans in the South. He insisted that Christians are, first of all, Koreans, and if they truly love Korea, they will join our nation building. Agree with us and all is forgiven. Oppose us and you're clearly a fake Korean, regardless of how much you love Christ. Behind the scenes, Kim Il-sung definitely viewed the American presence in the South and the remaining influence of missionaries as a dire threat. Decades later, North Korean propaganda would caricature the US occupation of South Korea as a crusade of capitalist Bible preachers. Kim's own speeches around that time drip with suspicion toward any Korean Christian who didn't fall in line. He warned of reactionary priests who led believers astray with pro-American ideas, and he was sure that the US was using religion as a Trojan horse. In one speech, Kim reminded people that the foreign missionaries living in Korea in the old days were the espionage agents of the imperialists. To him, or at least to his propaganda, those kindly Americans who built schools and churches were actually CIA precursors, softening Korea for the eventual takeover. Kim pointedly told North Korean Christians to abandon the wrong idea of worshipping foreign missionaries and make religion serve the state and nation instead. Now, one can almost hear the collective gasp of the remaining northern missionaries. They had no options but to leave the kingdom.
David Yonggi Cho, a South Korean, pastors the largest church in the world. For decades, he's been preparing teams of young pastors to be ready to share the gospel once the doors open in the north.
We are praying that God will speed up the intervention to North Korea.
Kim Il-sung's soft sell to Christians didn't last long. By the late 1940s, coercion had taken place. The northern regime quickly identified Christians as an unreliable class, potential fifth columnists for the hated Americans or southern reactionaries. Many devout families saw the writing on the wall and fled south while they still could. It's estimated that possibly up to 5 million North Korean Christians moved to South Korea in the late 1940s and during the Korean War. Those who stayed in the north faced increasing persecution. Kim's youth organizations were mobilized to harass church gatherings. Some Christians tried to resist or hide, but that only fueled the regime's narrative that Christians were enemies of the people. In 1946, Kim's government set up the Korean Christian Federation.
Yeah, this guy was never Christian. He never believed in any of that bullshit. So he's probably just like a complete psychopath.
Essentially, a state-controlled church to monitor and control believers. All Protestant denominations were forced into this one umbrella, and it was run by officials loyal to Kim. This Christian League took over all church properties and schools, and anyone who didn't register with it was by definition a lawbreaker. Kim further promoted some opportunistic clergymen to lead the League, notably Pastor Kang Ryang-uk, Kim's own uncle, who started chairing this organization in 1946. Kang was a Christian minister who embraced the new regime, and he dutifully towed Kim's line, assuring everyone that real Christians could also be good communists. With figures like Uncle Kang fronting the show, Kim neutralized a chunk of the Christian population into his communist regime. But outside the tame, state-sanctioned church, a terrible crackdown unfolded. From 1947 onward, numerous pastors and church elders in North Korea were purged, jailed, or executed under charges of espionage or sedition. The regime particularly targeted those who had any contact with Americans or Southern authorities, branding them spies of the US under the cloak of religion. Kim Il-sung's speeches went from urging Christians to be patriotic to outright vilifying all Christian leaders as pro-American saboteurs, accusing them of selling out the nation for dollars. By the early 1950s, Christianity in North Korea was all but annihilated above ground. Most of the 3,000 churches that once stood in the north were closed or destroyed, some blown to rubble in the Korean War bombings, others deliberately demolished by Kim's regime. One eyewitness account after the war noted that not a single church steeple was left intact in Pyongyang, where dozens had pierced the skyline before. Thousands of Christians who refused to kowtow to Kim's government were executed or sent to gulags. One defector chillingly testified that when secret believers were caught with Bibles, not only they, but their entire families, children included, were hauled off to labour camps. North Korean documents from that era aren't exactly public, but scholars estimate that by the late 1950s, organised Christianity had been effectively wiped out there. The Christian heart of Pyongyang was replaced by portraits of Marx, Lenin, and Kim Il-sung himself. Kim justified this brutal campaign with fervent ideological rhetoric by rendering the language of faith into Marxist slogans. He declared that, however hard pastors may have called upon God, never did God give anyone a patch of field. Only the people's power could give land. It was a biting line in a 1946 speech, reminding people that his communist land redistribution had tangibly helped peasants, whereas praying had not filled their rice bowls. In essence, Kim cast himself and his party as the true saviours, delivering what God wouldn't. He also trotted out a warped inversion of the New Testament. The US missionaries preached, "Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." This implies Koreans should not resist invasion, but our people gave this answer: "If you slap us once, we will return 2 slaps." And they did so. Through such rhetoric, Kim Il-sung attempted to rewrite Christian teachings into a call for revolutionary vengeance, portraying Americans as false prophets who told Koreans to be docile, versus himself, who advocated fierce retaliation. During the Korean War, anti-American fury in the North reached a fever pitch, and propaganda spared no gruesome image. One infamous piece of North Korean fiction, Jackals, by Han Soria, depicted Yankee missionaries as literal child killers, the villains who inject North Korean kids with plague germs. At the Shincheon Museum,
Yeah, while they're probably working kids to death, and they still do that, they literally murder kids.
Museum of American War Crimes, exhibitions show men with crosses around their necks, torturing and massacring innocent Koreans. The message was clear: Christian equals American, and thus equals the enemy. Kim had successfully transformed the perception of Christianity from a faith of Korean martyrs to a fifth column of foreign imperialism at a jaw-dropping speed. Korean Christians who had fought side by side with communists against the Japanese were now labelled traitors serving a foreign god. The old alliance between Korean nationalists
Sleepy, you don't need to tell her his RFK eats like shit. Yeah, he does.
What'd you eat for breakfast today?
Today I had steak and
Okay.
I had yogurt. I eat grass-fed milk on top or cream on top yogurt. And that I have a very restricted diet that I've been on for about, 250 days. But it's a carnivore diet with ferments. So it's carnivore, and then the only other thing I eat is ferments.
Is it a strict carnivore diet?
It's very strict.
No carbs?
No carbs. My heart was covered
He eats yogurt, so he clearly has carbohydrates.
with visceral fat.
Wow.
My liver was covered with visceral fat. And he said, if you don't already have atrial fibrillations, you're going to have them. And I had had atrial fibrillations every day for 4 months. And he told me a lot of other bad stuff that was going to happen to me. So he said, I can get rid of it all within 90 days. And he said, you do this diet. So I did the diet for 30 days. Then I did another full body MRI, and my visceral fat had gone down by 40%.
What do you eat for breakfast?
Literally dieting gets rid of visceral fat. So if you lose weight, that will get rid of visceral fat. Also, weird how he's eating foods that are high in saturated fat. That helps to increase visceral fat. Like there's studies on this. Diets higher in saturated fat make it more difficult to lose visceral fat, and they make you have a higher propensity of gaining. RFK is just stupid as fuck. Thanks for the donation, Sleepy. Bin Laden's flash drive donated $2. Let me see. Ew. What the hell was that kid thinking? I would not want to cut my leg open in that fucking dirty ass water.
Oh, I told you it was hard.
I broke my back.
What do you mean by that?
My back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or
Well,
what portion?
Spinal.
Yeah. People do dumb things. Oh, good. Is the bull gonna hurt him? I was not expecting that, but that's good. Thanks for the donation, Bin Laden's flash drive.
Nationalism and Christianity was shattered by none other than a man who embodied that very alliance in his youth. By the mid-1950s, Kim Il-sung stood unchallenged in North Korea, and he presided over an officially...
How do these pencil neck twigs even make money? Do they just have rich parents?
Let me see. Yes, they do.
Apartment complex in Dallas. We didn't even budget for real. Like, we were like, yo, like, we just need to get the nicest thing and just put ourselves in that situation where we just gotta pray. Because like how he said, like, in our hometown, like, bro, we were making 40K, 30K months. Bro, we just kept stacking our bank account, bro. We felt like we were the goats. We were like...
Yep, rich parents. That's all it is. Thanks for the donation, Sleepy.
The atheistic state, where loyalty to the party and leader had supplanted every other creed. But here's where things take another ironic turn. Even as Kim outlawed genuine religious practice, he began to mold his own rule into a new personality cult. Consciously or not, he filled the void of religion with himself. Having snuffed out the competition, sorry Jesus, Kim Il-sung proceeded to do something arguably brilliant in a twisted way. He appropriated religious forms and symbols into his own cult of personality. If earlier he saw how devotion to God could rival devotion to a dictator, he seems to have thought, why not redirect that devotion to me? North Korea's state ideology, eventually termed juche, self-reliance, became more than a political line. It evolved into a full-blown civil religion, with Kim at its absolute centre. And the parallels to traditional religion were no accident. Kim effectively cast himself in the role of a supreme deity-like figure, the ultimate source of truth, morality, and blessing. North Korean children learn creation myths, not about the Garden of Eden, but about Mount Paektu, the most sacred place of the Kim family's origin. In such irony, these tales simply mirror Christian narratives. For example, Kim's birthplace Mangyongdae is revered almost like Bethlehem, a humble holy site from which a saviour emerged. His son Kim Jong-il's official birth story has unmistakable messianic overtones, like a knockoff nativity. Instead of saints and apostles, North Korea teaches about revolutionary martyrs and heroes, essentially a communist hagiography, with Kim Il-sung as the eternal benevolent father. They even formulated 10 principles for the establishment of the one ideology system, which every North Korean must memorize and follow. These 10 principles dictate absolute obedience and veneration of the leader, eerily echoing the idea of no other gods before me. The regime also preserved a few actual church buildings in Pyongyang, but repurposed them as showcases. One notable example is Chilgol Church, a Protestant church that Kim Il-sung had rebuilt in the 1980s on the site of the church his mother attended. On the surface, this looked like religious tolerance. Look, we allow a church. But in fact, Chilgol Church is a museum to Kim's mum, Kang Pan-sok, and a stage for controlled worship by vetted congregants. In other words, even the remnant of Christianity was co-opted to glorify the leader's bloodline. It's as if Kim said, you want to pray? Fine. Come pray at Mummy's church and thank God for giving Korea such a wonderful, great leader. Satirical as that sounds, it's not far off. Kim's regime also started rituals to consolidate its rule. Daily life in North Korea acquired the rhythms of worship. Citizens bowed to Kim's portraits as if venerating icons. They learned hymns praising him, like the song of General Kim Il-sung. And pilgrimages to revolutionary sites were mandatory rites of passage. North Korean defectors who later encountered Christian worship abroad must be struck by their similarity. In fact, one defector remarked that church ceremonies reminded me strangely of the ceremonies and political study sessions glorifying Kim Il-sung and Kim
Yeah, so this guy's a psychopath, and he used principles in Christianity to basically turn himself into a deity and just consolidate more power.
Jong-il. This was no accident. Kim had built a system where he was the object of faith. The state-crafted liturgy from the mass games pageants that looked like grand religious festivals, to the oaths students recite to join the youth league. The entire society was oriented to a religion of the godly Kim. In a literal sense, they even reset the calendar. The first year of the Juche era is 1912, Kim's birth year. North Koreans now live in the year 112 AKB. By the way, AKB stands for After Kim's Birth. It's darkly comedic how thoroughly Kim Il-sung remodeled Christianity to structure his own authoritarian cult. He went from preaching scripture to preaching Juche ideology, from accompanying hymns on the organ to having an entire nation sing his praises in lockstep. Under Kim, the DPRK became a theocracy, a personality cult so extreme that it far exceeded Stalinism and Maoism. The paradox is thick. Kim Il-sung justified crushing Christianity by saying only one God allowed, the Korean nation. But then he gradually made himself the only God that matters. Even his eventual title, Eternal President, suggests an omnipresent spirit. It's as if he took the old Presbyterian motto, Soli Deo Gloria, glory to God alone, and cheekily tweaked it to glory to Kim alone. Kim Il-sung's life journey, from baptism to a cult of the Kim clan, is the stuff of satirical legend. Here was a man whose grandfather probably preached about the humility of Christ, yet Kim ended up erecting 20-meter statues of himself and demanding to be called Son of the Nation. He grew up hearing tales of martyrs and saints, and he managed to twist those tales into a narrative where he was the greatest martyr saint of all, liberating Korea from the enemy's hands. One could say Kim Il-sung didn't really abandon Christianity, he reinvented it in his own image. North Korea's revolutionary mythology is a perverse reversal of Christianity. In Christianity, God dies so that all may live. But in North Korea, all must be prepared to die so that one supreme leader may live on as a god. Indeed, millions were sacrificed in war and purges to secure Kim's regime. And what of those early American influences on Kim? The man who once had American mentors ended up hating the US with a fiery passion. He took the American missionary model of self-supporting, self-governing churches and flipped it into the Juche ideal of self-reliant, independent development. Even his anti-American propaganda had a tone of religious crusade. Americans became the great Satan in North Korean law, the eternal tempter and destroyer. During the Korean War, leaflets and broadcasts claimed that American apostles of God had revealed their true demonic nature, slaughtering innocents. In a strangely comic coda, Kim Il-sung did eventually meet an American missionary in person. In 1992, the famous Reverend Billy Graham visited Pyongyang and met Kim Il-sung, presenting him with a Bible as a gift. Think about that. The supreme leader graciously accepting a Bible, the very book whose owners he had once sent to labor camps. North Korean media later absurdly claimed Billy Graham praised Kim as God, which Graham did not say. The regime just couldn't resist folding that event into their narrative. The world's most prominent Christian evangelist coming to pay respect to him, the God King of North Korea. In the regime's eyes,
I love how they're such fucking liars.
The circle was complete. Even the American Bible bearers bowed to Kim. Of course, outside the bubble, everyone else saw an aging dictator trying to polish his dying image. Kim Il-sung, who started life in a family praying to Jesus, ended life receiving a worshipful gaze from people praying to him. The little boy who played hymns ended up demanding hymns to himself. And North Koreans today still live with that legacy. So, the next time you see footage of North Koreans weeping and genuflecting before a giant bronze statue of Kim Il-sung, remember, that man once believed in a very different bronze statue. A cross on an altar, in a little Presbyterian...
He never believed shit. Clearly. The guy's just a psychopath. And it's probably why... It's probably some inherited genetic thing. That's why his, like, kids are fucked, too. Oh, shit.
He is
Made
so
a video
safe.
hating on Brian. Sick. We gotta watch that. Oh. All right, I'm just gonna go get a drink real quick, and then we'll watch some more stuff. I'll be right back. Donated $2. Didn't know Gummy was this based. Western civilization may never win another war if this keeps up. This madding radical left mainstream media woke writer running the exact same playbook of the U.S. Israel, blah, blah, blah. Impossible standards in terms of zero casualties, zero economic disruption, zero uncertainty, zero time to accomplish the mission, zero collateral damage. Everything the bad guys do is actually our fault because we made them do it. Day 32 of the Aryan War. Degraded missile factories, nuclear sites, RGC bases, proxy networks. Supreme leader is gone. His replacement is a vegetable. All the top leadership is gone. In fact, we don't even know who's in charge. Yet all you hear is endless doomerism. Yep. Well, and yeah, it's communist brain rot propaganda coming from Russia and China. So, yeah. Thanks for the donation, Cum. That guy is based.
While threatening you with the most devastating launchers in the game. And not only is he safe many times, he actually builds momentum on you using these. Brian is just up there #1 in terms of, if I get a launch, what does that give me? After all of that bullshit with the combo, the opponent has to wake up at the wall. If he stands up or if he tech rolls, any way he gets up, this taunt will threaten him. What's up guys, Main Man Sui here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always. Welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna talk about one of my favorite characters, Mr. Brian Fury. He is so fucking cool, one of the coolest fighting game characters ever, if you ask me. And oh my god, unbelievably demanding to play, so difficult. Execution skill, that's mechanical skill, strategy, brainy gameplay. It's just above any other character in Tekken history. And Tekken 8 Season 2 took this to its crescendo, to its climax. It's just such a struggle playing this character. You work 5 times harder than everyone else playing this game. And he has shortcomings and weaknesses all over the place. Holes in his game plan, he doesn't hit hard enough, the frames aren't strong enough. This character needs buffs more than any other character. Well, I wanted to do a bullshit intro and try and, you know, rage bait because, yeah, everyone seems to hate this character. On Tekken Reddit, there are posts everywhere with like hundreds of replies on why everyone hates Brian. And, yeah, it's kind of justified. This character is kind of fucking dumb. But it's funny that he gets hated because of characters like, in my opinion, like Hwoarang, Zaf, and Akuma, who just spam bullshit in your face endlessly. They knowledge check you. It's very tricky to deal with. It just feels so bullshit. I sort of dislike those characters more. Well, I mean, I'm biased. I like Brian so much. I've been playing him for so many years. But there's no denying Brian is insanely bullshit right now. There's just no denying it. Certainly, he doesn't rush you down with dumbass stances and a million strings and tricky gameplay and bullshit evasion and panic moves. He's very straightforward. He does basic attacks, you know, and counter hits you and pressures you with strong frames on block. The thing is that what's bullshit about him is that he does that almost better than any other character. He's so explosive. His frames are so strong. His damage is so high. It's conventional Tekken, but it's conventional Tekken taken to its extreme. It's just the damage is too high. The frames are too good. That's where he becomes bullshit. Step one, in my opinion, what makes him so dumb is his sheer, like, anytime he gets a launch, what that means for Brian in terms of damage and potential damage. His wall travel is among the best in the game, if not the best. His combo variety, among the best. Damage output, I would say, is the best when you combine it with the wall travel. Oh, let's see. Hup! I'm gonna jump back twice. And I'm gonna do a very basic combo here. So nothing optimal. Very basic. I get the wall. Tick, 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 tick. And I get, like, huge damage. Note that this is with bigger HP, bigger health pools. We have 200 HP now instead of 180. Again, this was not optimal from an orbital, and I still cleared that much damage. With certain other counter launches, you can get 60 to 70%. I shit you not, he can still hit that fucking hard. After this combo, after this wall trap,
can you debate Zatchap on communism? No, I'm not going to bother debating communists. They're just fucktards.
after this damage, you still are not in the clear, because now comes the most disgusting Oki situation in the game, and it's due to Brian's trademark, his signature taunt, right? This is a 28 frame unblockable that, if a Brian player is decent, leads to guaranteed damage. So after all of that bullshit with the combo, the opponent has to wake up at the wall. If he stands up or if he tech rolls, any way he gets up, this taunt will threaten him. So a lot of people just want to stay on the ground because the taunt is so scary. But then when you stay on the ground, it can threaten you with a soccer kick, like a Kazuya steel pedal, to just keep flipping you on the ground, or bully you with down 4. Bully you. There's no good option here. It's the scariest Oki in the game at the wall. And why is that? Well, because if that taunt connects, a decent Brian will do this, and it does a million damage. That's from a 28 frame unblockable, by the way. But this got even dumber in this game. Like, taunt back 4 is max damage at the wall, but now you see the best Brian players in the world, like low, high, and knee, they do heat smash. It's less damage, but into good, strong Oki. And now you're like, why would they do that when they can do taunt back 4? And shouldn't they be the same difficulty? Because back 4 is 16 frame startup, as noted below. And the heat smash, as you can see, is also 16 frame startup. That makes no sense. If they can do the heat smash, why aren't they doing back 4 for more damage? Aren't they leaving a lot of damage on the table? And this is weird because they have both the same frame startup. But this is where I'm going to explain to you that there's a built-in leniency on Taunt Heat Smash that was certainly put there by the developers on purpose to make more people have the Brian's Taunt game accessible to them. Because that Taunt game has relied on frame-perfect execution for all of, mankind's history, really. So they put in a leniency that even if you're like 5 frames late, like you do taunt, and then I'm 5 frames late and I press heat smash, the game will shorten the animation of the heat smash to fit the taunt window, and you get it. It's so much easier, to the point where the best Brians in the world go for this just for its sheer consistency, and it still does 55 damage, it still gives killer Oki, And it breaks the fucking floor if there's a breakable floor. The just sheer amount of stuff he gets from one launch, it's like no other character. I'm gonna stress it again. The explosive damage, the insane wall travel, what wall pressure means for this character specifically. There's also other things we can get into. We can go into Soul Eraser. What is this move? What is this guard break? Well, let me tell ya, if this hits you on normal hit, goodbye. You died. If you block this, oh, I guess I'm -1. I'm back to neutral. Thank you, Tekken 8.
Wow.
If he charges it up,
That's... They fucked the balancing in this game. I don't know why they did this. Like, enough people complain to them, too. They're just fucking assholes.
Bagoosh breaks your guard, and you get blown up. He gets to combo you. The counterplay is very strict. If you see him charge it up, you have to react to it and sidewalk it. This is very hard to do on reaction, but it is possible. I think the counterplay is too difficult considering everything this move has going.
Destiny can't handle the real nigga vegan gains. His brain short circuits and he subs in his retarded pseudo-intellectual Discord stooges.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. That was pretty embarrassing. What a dumbass. Thanks for the donation, Foxtrot. Battletoads when I'm ready, you know.
For it. Another dumb thing is that it actually hits grounded as well. Why does it hit grounded? I have no clue. Brian is disgustingly stupid at the wall. And there's so much more we could get into, like what he gets with heat, incinerator string, how stupid this string is. Even after them nerfing it, reducing its tracking, it is still so unbelievably dumb. Hit confirmable, can stay here at -2. At -2 there, Brian can do whatever he wants. How many Brians have you seen do bop 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 and then do this, threaten 1 2 4, which is a countered string obviously that will wall splat. We saw Low-High do this not long ago in a tournament. Blop blop blop, boom, you died. Right? You're dead. That's a 10 frame wall splat into 90 damage. We're gonna get into more points on Brian, but I'm just talking about the sheer pressure at the wall here, because it doesn't really end here either. We can also, you know, back 4 alone, safe, right? Kills you at the wall. Another thing about his heat is the enhanced Mach Punch. Forward 1 + 2, only accessible in heat. This is a high that's +5 on block and does 14 damage on block. If I counter hit you with it, 43 damage. This move has a built-in parry, very generous parry window to make you second guess taking any frames against Brian for granted, or ever taking your turn against the character when he is in heat. So here I do bop bop bop. Yeah. Did you see the damage? That was 36 damage. I'm gonna claim half your life bar yet again. Everything I've explained to you, imagine a really good Brian player who knows to really take advantage of this stuff, combining all of these mechanics on you at the wall. If that's not some of the craziest stuff you've ever seen in this game, I don't know what is. So that's aspect number 1 as to how crazy Brian is. But then it's how safe he is. Half this character's move list, I shit you not, counter hit launches you. And almost all of those moves are safe. So Core Circle Back 1 is his electric. Super long range counter hit launcher that does not allow you to bound, but still does excessive damage. This is +5 on block.
Jeez.
Back 1 +4 on block. Mid this time. Gigantic counter hit launch.
Yeah, that explains it. I ran into a few Brian players, and I got absolutely fucking bodied playing Kazuya. Why do they make characters like this? They must be doing some like stupid thing where they just buff the shit out of some of the more popular characters to like see if they can get more player retention or something. It's fucking retarded.
Gigantic counter hit launch. That's 80 damage, and again, what I just showed you is not optimal. Forward free, mid counter hit launcher, right? Counter hit launch. 16 frame startup. This is as rare as a fast mid counter hit launcher that is neutral on block. That's right, I'm not punishable, I'm not even minus. In fact, if I stand further away from you, it's plus. +1. It can go +2 at tip range. +2. It's my turn. I just had the chance of counter hit launching you. You blocked it. It's still my turn. 1, 2, 4. Again, I showed you. 10 frame countered string. Heat engager. Wall splat. Enormously damaging. Enormously damaging. 1, 2, 1 is also a counter hit natural. -6 on block. The last hit, very delayable, is a counter hit launcher. It's a counter hit launcher. While setting free. 12 frame startup from crouching. Counter hit launcher. Down for 2, free. Counter hit launcher. Down for 2, free. That's a counter hit launcher. Back to 1. A counter hit launcher that will end your life. Quite literally. Oh, wait, what am I doing? He is...
Like, this is stupid.
So safe while threatening you with the most devastating launchers in the game. And not only is he safe many times, he actually builds momentum on you using these. And then we can get into Requiem, how strong that is. Of course. Infinity Reach, unparryable mid-launcher in heat. And they've also removed a lot of his weaknesses. He used to not 50-50 too well. Hatchet has received a lot of buffs over the years. His poking used to be worse. They've done a lot to give him better poking. Like down 2 is +8. 14 frame startup mid, +8. Forces crouch. -2 on block. And again, counter it launching follow-up. That's only -10. Can check with down for 1. Hit confirm this. Very strong. His punishment used to be weak. But then they gave him this 12 frame. +8, 30 damage. Super strong. In Tekken 7, they gave him this 13 frame while sending 37 damage into wall splat. Super strong. And of course, anytime he blocks a sweep, he can now do a blue spark fisherman slam. If I can do it, there we go. This is without resources. That is 90 damage without resources. And that can floor break. The sheer damage output is just absurd. Did you know down 4 is homing? It doesn't have a homing trail, but this low tracks to both sides super well. Look at the reach. And hits grounded. Only -11 on block. Even your 12 frame while sending punishers don't work on this. And neutral. As you can see on hit. And down back free. Like, the poking is strong. And the punishment is strong. If you're -14, you can buffer jet upper. You'll never drop a -14 jet upper. The punishment is very strong. He doesn't have a bullshit like a stance evasive, spam character. But if you're a strong Tekken player, this guy has the best tools. Arguably, he has the best tools in the game if you're a fundamentally sound Tekken player. You can mention other characters like Nina, you can mention Claudio, they also do well, Fengwei. But Brian is just up there #1 in terms of, if I get a launch, what does that give me? He's #1 in that list. No one gets bigger payoff from a launch than Brian. This character is bullshit. I still respect Brian players, I always have, but he needs toning down. And I say this as someone who loves this character, by the way. And this was me not even mentioning, you know, the new mix-ups, like back one two there, into frames, into crouch, the new...
Comrade, the world is on fire. It's only the dawn of 2026, and our dear President Donald Trump has decided to play world sheriff again. In a jaw-dropping spectacle, he sent US Delta Force commandos swooping into Caracas to snatch Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro straight from his bedroom. No warning, no Congress, no UN approval, just helicopters, assault ships, and a stunned Maduro bundled off to New York in handcuffs. Trump posted a triumphant photo of a disheveled Maduro aboard a US Navy ship, bragging about his newest trophy captive. It was an arrest heard all around the world, and Kim Jong perhaps had a panic attack. North Korea's reaction? Highest alarm with some bravado. Kim Jong has one simple rule for survival: never give up the nukes. If the world's recent history of regime change has taught us anything, it's that nuclear weapons are the best life insurance for dictators. North Korea watched the US steamroll non-nuclear foes like Saddam and Gaddafi and concluded, "Not us, Yankees." Pyongyang, in fact, openly cites American aggression to justify its atomic arsenal as its essential national defense. After Trump's Venezuela adventure, North Korean state media thundered that Maduro's fate clearly confirms once again the rogue and brutal nature of the United States, calling the US attack the most serious form of encroachment on sovereignty. The implicit message was crystal clear: without nukes, we're next on the chopping block. Kim has hammered this point home in speeches, essentially telling his people, "Look at Comrade Maduro. International law didn't protect anyone from the American hegemony, so only our missiles and warheads keep us safe." It's hard to argue with that logic. Vladimir Putin's best bud, Dmitry Medvedev, quipped not long ago that nuclear weapons are the only reliable guarantor of a nation's security. Our supreme leader couldn't agree more. If Iraq really got its weapons of mass destruction, they will be perfectly safe. And a more recent lesson: Ukraine surrendered its Soviet-era nukes in the 1990s, only to get invaded by Russia decades later. Disarmament is dangerous to your health and longevity. So, regardless of international sanctions, Kim Jong clings to his nuclear warheads like a security blanket, flashing them whenever the regime feels threatened. They are like a bright neon sign warning saying, "Proceed with caution, trespassers will be nuked." Within 24 hours of the Venezuela raid, Kim supervised the launch of a new hypersonic ballistic missile. North Korean propaganda framed it as a routine test, but the timing can be no coincidence. Kim pointedly spoke about recent geopolitical crises, proving why North Korea needs strong deterrence. He didn't mention Maduro by name, but everyone knows what that is about. Kim further issued important instructions to expand tactical missile production exponentially and touted a new generation of nuclear-capable weapons in development. North Korea has the Hwasong-17 ICBM that can theoretically reach the US mainland, and shorter-range missiles consistently aimed at Seoul and Tokyo. The nuclear insurance policy covers a lot of territory. Kim can't stop the US from bombing North Korea, but he can ensure that an American attack would result in unacceptable carnage in return, at least to Japan, South Korea, and other Asian allies of the US. No matter how badly Trump might want to see Kim in an orange jumpsuit, that nuclear tripwire forces them to think twice before acting. Arrest Kim, and you risk Los Angeles or Seoul getting a mushroom cloud. And trading Pyongyang to Los Angeles is not an art.
People who say this shit are just so fucking retarded. The idea that North Korea could launch a nuke and it reach Los Angeles is just fucking retarded.
Deal. So, North Korea openly celebrates this deadly bargaining chip. State media has called the nuclear arsenal a treasured sword of justice and the ultimate guarantor of the nation's dignity. Pyongyang ensured that, in the first hours of war, its nukes could kill hundreds of thousands of South Koreans and tens of thousands of US troops stationed in Korea and Japan. No American president wants to be responsible for that bloodbath, especially not over a personal quest to arrest a foreign leader. Thus, Kim's life is protected by the threat of millions of others' deaths. And ironically, Trump himself has validated Kim's nuclear insurance policy through his actions. Remember, in 2018, Trump withdrew the US from the Iran nuclear deal, which had been limiting Iran's nuclear capability. It was another lesson for dictators. Even if you make a deal with Washington, a new president can easily rip it apart. Therefore, Kim Jong is a student of history, at least when it comes to dictators' demises. Nothing concentrates a tyrant's mind like seeing other tyrants get toppled. The late dear leader Kim Jong-il reportedly watched footage of Saddam's statue toppling in Baghdad in 2003 on repeat, like a horror film marathon. He then decided that North Korea would sprint to the nuclear finish line. But wait a minute, isn't North Korea a poor, isolated, and technologically backward country? How could they successfully own their nuclear weapons and make so many other dictators envious? North Korea's path to the bomb has been a decades-long saga of crafty defiance, strategic patience, and an almost bizarre tenacity in the face of sanctions. Pyongyang's nuclear program is the cockroach that survived every attempt to stamp it out, all the way back to the 50s. During the Korean War, the US had threatened to nuke the communist North, and that left a lasting impression on the grandpa Kim. So with Soviet and Chinese help, North Korean scientists started dabbling in nuclear research. They built their first small research reactor in the early 1960s and began training a generation of nuclear engineers.
Swear to fucking God, you get recommended the same exact videos as me. I've been subbed to this In the Kingdom guy for a few weeks now with fucking... You now get it. Well, I guess we watch the same shit a lot of the time, so makes sense we'd get recommended the same crap.
By the 1980s, Pyongyang had constructed a larger reactor at Yongbyon and a plutonium reprocessing facility. Kim Il-sung even signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in 1985, likely to placate Moscow and others, though they never welcomed any international inspection. With the big Soviet brother dissolved, North Korea's secret bomb program became more obvious and alarming. In 1993, international inspectors found Pyongyang had produced more plutonium than it admitted, and the grandpa Kim simply said, "Well, what treaty? Nuclear non-proliferation? Let's forget about that." So it triggered the first DPRK nuclear standoff. The American Air Force under the Clinton administration actually drew up plans for airstrikes on Yongbyon, like what Trump did to Iran in June 2025. The situation was very tense, and a war seemed imminent. But at the 11th hour, former President Jimmy Carter flew to Pyongyang for some freelance diplomacy and managed to strike a deal. In October 1994, the US and North Korea signed the Agreed Framework, where Pyongyang promised to freeze its plutonium program and mothball Yongbyon. In exchange, the US offered heavy fuel oil, 2 fancy light water reactors for energy, and a tentative path toward normalizing relations. In essence, North Korea got paid to stop doing the bad thing it wasn't supposed to be doing anyway. The crisis was diffused. Kim Il-sung died that summer, and his son Kim Jong-il took over, smiling like the cat that ate the canary. Pyongyang got billions in aid and supplies, and all they had to do was pause the bomb program. Again. Some naive Western politicians are cheated by the Kims again. By the late 1990s, US intelligence found North Korea had a side hustle, a secret uranium enrichment program. Come on, why rely on plutonium alone when you can clandestinely pursue a second path to the A-bomb? Sure enough, in 2002, the Bush administration confronted North Korea with evidence of a covert uranium program, and our dear leader shrugged it off. The agreed framework collapsed. Bush labeled North Korea part of the axis of evil, along with Iran and Iraq, and was in no mood to keep any deal. By the end of 2002, North Korea expelled the international inspectors, blatantly restarted the Yongbyon reactor, and officially quit all nuclear treaties they ever signed. Treaties? What treaties? It's time to build nukes, openly. The next few years saw a cacophony of diplomacy and provocations. There were 6-party talks that produced some joint statements, but also a lot more frustration. North Korea cheekily strung along negotiations, occasionally agreeing to things and then backtracking. The climax of this cat and mouse came on October 9, 2006, when North Korea shocked the world with its first nuclear test. It was supposedly a low-key underground test, with a yield of only a kiloton or 2, but it had a tremendous yield in the world of politics. Pyongyang was now a nuclear weapons state, and the global response was outrage. The UN Security Council passed sanctions on North Korea faster than Kim Jong-un's weight growth. Even China, North Korea's biggest patron, agreed to and followed UN sanctions. Did those sanctions stop Kim's bomb quest? Oh, heck no. If anything, North Korea doubled down, since Saddam's fate was still vivid and alerting. They did a second nuclear test in 2009, the third in 2013, and then 2 more in 2016. With each test, UN sanctions tightened further. Resolutions ban weapons sales, cut off all financial links, prohibit North Korean exports of textiles, coal, iron, and even seafood. By 2017, the Kingdom was arguably the hardest sanctioned country in human history, theoretically cut off from all legitimate international trade and finance. The North Korean economy should, by all logic, have been on its knees. But counterintuitively, those were the very years Kim Jong-un accelerated the nuclear and missile programs to new heights. So how did they survive? In 2 words, cheating and suffering. North Korea became incredibly adept at sanctions evasion. Kim Jong-un and his technocrats should really write a book or offer some courses on illicit trade and money laundering. They
commit massive frauds and schemes all the fucking time. I remember they almost stole like 40 million from a bank at one point.
Clandestine ship-to-ship transfers at sea to import oil and export coal. They built a shadowy network of front companies and brokers in China, Singapore, Malaysia, and even in Europe and the US to procure components and funnel money. And increasingly, they had a powerful cyber army to raid banks and do all the crypto crimes. It's a game of whack-a-mole that our supreme leader excels at. Plus, the Pyongyang elite were ever determined. To keep the nukes going, if necessary, they will let their people eat grass and tree bark. Meanwhile, here comes the regime's extreme military-first policies. They diverted resources to the military like a black hole sucking in light. North Korea has around 25 million people and a standing army of about 1.2 million. It makes the DPRK military one of the largest in the world, ranking 4th by manpower. The regime's logic is brutal but simple. If you want to survive in an imperialist might makes right world, you sacrifice butter for guns. To be fair, there were moments of hope. A deal in 2007 where North Korea blew up a cool...
No, haven't seen the show Dexter. Like, I've seen clips, I know what it is. Definitely looks more interesting and better than Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's just fucking stupid. I don't care what anybody says, it's just fucking dumb. It's a show for, like, housewives, basically. It's not a good show. The other thing I don't like about it too, and it's not like a criticism where it makes the show bad. It's just like frustrating to watch on top of being bad. So, like, it's fine that there's characters you don't like in a show and that frustrate you. That doesn't mean it's bad writing, but the guy's wife, Skylar, and his, like, retarded son, they're fucking stupid, annoying characters, especially his wife, Skylar. Like, on top of just having bad, stupid writing, you have to also tolerate one of the most annoying dumb bitch TV moms of all fucking time. It's realistic, though. You'd expect, like, some middle-aged bitch to act like that, but, yeah, it's just irritating as shit. So, yeah.
Cooling tower at Yongbyon on camera as a show of good faith, in exchange for influxing aid. But that fell apart by 2009 over verification disputes. Years later, in 2012, Kim Jong briefly agreed to the Leap Day deal, in exchange for food aid from the Obama administration. But that also collapsed within weeks when North Korea shot up a rocket. Basically, every time the world thought it had coaxed or coerced North Korea into giving up the bomb, Pyongyang either renege or cheat. They were hell-bent on having a reliable nuclear deterrent, and no carrot or stick in the international arsenal gonna stop them. Fast forward to 2017. North Korea conducted its 6th and by far largest nuclear test, claiming it was a hydrogen bomb. That same year, they tested long-range missiles that could potentially hit US cities. The world was on fire, and President Trump was threatening fire and fury toward North Korea. Yet, ironically, it was precisely at that moment of peak pressure that Kim pivoted to diplomacy, not from a position of weakness, but from one of strength. By having a credible nuclear force, Kim Jong successfully brought Trump to those surreal summits. The key is that North Korea uses nukes and missiles as leverage to demand negotiation as an equal. To this day, sanctions are still in place, and the country is still impoverished, but Kim's regime remains firmly in power and armed to the teeth. Expecting disarmament is like a fool's fever dream. Since the tiny country had built the bomb, even under immense international pressure, the bomb, in return, really helps guarantee the regime's survival.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He has been very threatening beyond a normal statement. And as I said, they will be met with...
Trump is so dumb. You can just listen to how stupid he is when he talks. He's such a fucking idiot.
fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's think hypothetically. The North Korean long-range missile could be a bluff, and let's put the nuclear threat aside. Would Trump or any former US leader send a Delta Force to the Juche capital, arrest Kim Jong-un? Probably no, because unlike in the Middle East, nobody inside the kingdom is going to help the Yankees. The kingdom is like a fortified castle with no traitors holding the keys. The Kim dynasty, ruling since 1948, has mastered the art of totalitarian control to a degree that would make Orwell shudder. Internally, North Korea is hermetically sealed. No free press, no internet, no opposition parties, no free assembly, nada. The entire country is suffused with a paranoid security apparatus and constant propaganda glorifying Kim as a near deity. This means that, unlike Venezuela, where informants and dissidents abounded, in North Korea it's exceedingly hard for the CIA or any foreign agency to cultivate spies and saboteurs. Information lockdown is near absolute. The US intelligence had infiltrated Maduro's personal guard to secure his life routine and exact location. But they cannot replicate the operation in North Korea. In such isolation, even if people are discontented, they lack the means to organize or coordinate, and they're bombarded with regime propaganda 24/7 to channel their frustration against external enemies rather than their own leaders. The Kim family also has a long tradition of murdering anyone who even dreams of dissent. Going back to Kim Il-sung, there were periodic purges to eliminate factionalists, suspected rebels, or insufficiently enthusiastic cadres. Our dear leader Kim Jong-il continued the purges and rigorously trained Kim Jong-un in this art form. The young dictator infamously had his own uncle, Jang Song-taek, executed in 2013 for allegedly plotting against him. In Pyongyang's halls of power, everyone knows the rule: absolute loyalty or your dog food. The result is a governing elite terrified into compliance and no credible rival centers of power. Unlike in some regimes where the military might challenge the leader, North Korea's military is thoroughly under Kim's thumb.
I don't know how the hell people tolerate living like that, dude. I think if I grew up in North Korea, I'd just be fucking dead. I'd be like, why am I listening to this fat retard? Oh, a Chinooki. Oh my goodness, look at the little Chinooki. Oh, Chinookis are so good. See this sweet little Chinooki? Oh, that is a nice Chinooki. Chinookis are nice guys. I love Chinookis. They're so round. Oh, look at the little round Chinooki being a good boy. I love Chinookis. That's good. That's really good. I think I shall tonight. You know what I'm saying? I gotta do shit tomorrow. So I'm going to get some rest. I'll be on tomorrow night. So I will see you all then. And sweet dreams. But big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Really appreciate it. I'll see you all tomorrow, and I'll start stream at a more normal time. But nighty-night, everybody.